You're listening to 10-Minute Murder.
64 years old, retired security engineer, been burglarized so many times that he's sleeping with a gun. Then on Thanksgiving 2012, two teenagers break into his basement. Byron Smith was ready. He'd moved his truck to make the house look empty. He was armed with two guns, and he turned on his audio recorder. What that recording captured would seal his fate for life. Byron Smith was 64 years old in 2012, retired from the U.S. State Department where he'd worked as a security engineer, setting up security at American embassies in places like Bangkok, Cairo, and Beijing. That professional background becomes crucial because the prosecution would argue that someone with his expertise couldn't claim pure panic. Smith had real reasons to be scared. In the months before Thanksgiving 2012, his house in Little Falls, Minnesota got hit repeatedly. Thieves took $4,000 in cash, his video camera, chainsaw, gold coins. But losing his father's POW watch devastated him. Irreplaceable sentimental value. Something deeply personal gets violated when a thief takes that from you. Neighbors testified Smith looked terrified in those final weeks, sleep-deprived even, visibly upset. He started wearing a holstered gun around his own house. He began stashing water bottles and granola bars in the basement, preparing for an extended standoff. These actions became legally significant because they show preparation rather than spontaneous reaction. Nicholas Brady and Haile Kifer were cousins. Brady was 17, Haile was 18. Police had linked Brady to at least two prior burglaries of Smith's property. Brady stole that cash, the video camera, the chainsaw. Brady had an accomplice named Cody Casper who'd actually done odd jobs for Smith. Yard work, cleaning up around the property, those types of things. These teens had insider knowledge about what Smith owned and where he kept them. The day before Thanksgiving, Brady and Kifer got connected to another burglary where they stole prescription medications. Investigators found those stolen pills in the cars the teens were driving on Thanksgiving Day. Smith knew Brady had burglarized him. He felt targeted and believed law enforcement had done nothing to stop it. Thanksgiving morning 2012, Smith drove his truck away and parked it at a neighbor's home. He wanted his house to look unoccupied. Then he went back into the basement and positioned himself in a chair with a clear view of the stairway. He armed himself with two weapons, a Ruger Mini 14 rifle and a high-standard .22 caliber revolver. Then Smith turned on his audio recording system. 6 hours and 25 minutes of recording time. Maybe he thought this would prove his innocence. Instead, that audio became the prosecution's most powerful evidence. Byron Smith also unscrewed the light bulbs in the basement. Intruders would be descending into darkness while he maintained tactical advantage. In legal terms, what he was doing was called lying in wait. Prosecutors argued he created conditions designed to lure intruders into a lethal trap. Around 12:30 p.m., Nick Brady broke in through a bedroom window. The audio captures breaking glass, then footsteps. Smith waited 12 minutes in silence. Then Brady started down the basement stairs. Smith opened fire. 2 shots hit Brady as he descended. Brady fell, groaning and wounded. Medical examiner testimony confirmed these initial shots were serious, but wouldn't have immediately killed him. Smith's rifle jammed. He switched to his .22 caliber revolver and fired a third shot, close range through Brady's hand into his right temple. That headshot became the fatal wound. The audio captures Smith saying, "You're dead."
You're dead.
Then the sound of Byron Smith dragging Brady's body, wrapping him in a tarp, putting him into a workshop, heavy breathing, Smith reloading his weapon. Then he waited. 10 full minutes pass on that recording. Haile Kifer entered the basement approximately 10 minutes after her cousin. That time gap matters enormously. 10 minutes provides time to call 911, to secure the scene, to make different choices. Those 10 minutes eliminate any argument that Smith acted in continuous panic. The audio captures Kifer softly calling Nick as she starts down the stairs. Smith fires. She falls. His gun jams. The recording captures him saying, "Oh, sorry about that," sarcastic and mocking.
"Oh, sorry about that."
Then Kifer screams, "Oh my God." Smith fires multiple times, 6 shots in total. Between shots, he tells her, "You're dying."
Bitch.
He called her a bitch multiple times. Smith dragged her into that workshop and placed her on top of Brady's body. Haile was still breathing, and Smith delivered one final shot under the chin. He would later describe this to police as, quote, "a good, clean finishing shot." Those 5 words became the most damning evidence. That's execution language. The audio later captured Smith's voice reflecting on what he'd done. He referred to both teenagers as vermin. He described the killings as his civic duty. He said, quote, "I don't see them as human." Judge Douglas Anderson blocked most of the evidence about Brady and Kifer's criminal histories. The judge ruled that Smith didn't know who was breaking in when he started shooting. The trial focused on what Byron Smith did after the initial threat was neutralized. The prosecution had his own recording, the 10-minute wait between shootings, the taunting, the close-range headshots delivered to wounded teenagers no longer capable of harming anyone, the final finishing shots, all captured on audio Smith himself recorded. Byron Smith didn't call 911 on Thanksgiving. He kept both bodies in his basement overnight. At one point on the audio, he practices what he'll say to lawyers. He whispered, "In your left eye." Prosecutors noted Kifer was ultimately shot in her left eye, suggesting Smith had been rehearsing the killing. Friday morning, Smith called a neighbor asking for lawyer recommendations. That neighbor contacted the Morrison County Sheriff's Office. When deputies arrived, Smith led them to the basement workshop where both bodies lay wrapped in tarps stacked on top of each other. Brady had 3 gunshot wounds. Kifer had 6. Smith told the investigators he'd solved the break-ins in the neighborhood. He saw himself as solving a problem through violence because law enforcement had failed him. Smith's defense attorney made a strategic decision. He would not testify at his murder trial. This probably aimed to prevent cross-examination about those recorded statements. The prosecution played that audio recording, 15 minutes of condensed audio. The jury heard breaking glass, the footsteps, and gunshots. Brady groaning, Smith saying, "You're dead," a body being dragged. 10 minutes of silence, then Kifer's voice, more gunshots, her screams, Smith's mocking, and the final fatal gunshot. The courtroom sat in silence except for family members sobbing. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. April 29, 2014, guilty on 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder, guilty on 2 counts of second-degree murder. Smith was immediately sentenced to 2 concurrent life sentences without parole. His appeals went nowhere. He petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court in 2021, denied. Currently, Byron Smith remains incarcerated in Minnesota. In 2024, 12 years after the killings, Smith filed a civil defamation lawsuit against Jeremy Lubertz, the lead investigator who'd written a book about the case. More than a decade into a life sentence, Smith is still fighting to control the narrative, still convinced he was wronged. The Byron Smith case became a landmark. It defined exactly where Minnesota law draws the boundary between justified self-defense and criminal murder. Smith's security background worked against him. Someone with his training should have understood proportionate response, should have recognized when a threat had been neutralized, should have known to call law enforcement. The jury heard all of it, the preparation, the lying in wait, the multiple weapons, the reloading between victims, and above all, Smith's own voice documenting his malice. The Castle Doctrine protects your right to defend your life in your home. It doesn't grant you the right to become judge, jury, and executioner. Byron Smith crossed that line on Thanksgiving 2012, and his own recording provided undeniable proof beyond any reasonable doubt.
Cute. I'm sure she thought she was a real pro. I feel a little bit safer. Not totally safe. I'm still shaking a bit, but a little bit safer. I refuse to live in fear. I am not a bleeding heart liberal. I felt like I was cleaning up a mess. I was doing my civic duty. Because the law enforcement system couldn't handle it, and I had to do it. I had to do it. I don't see them as human. I see them as vermin. This bitch was going to go through her life spoiling things for other people. Thieving, robbing, drug use. I try to be a good person. I try to do what I should, be friendly to other people, help them when I can. Try to be a good citizen. And because I try to be a decent person, they think I'm a patsy. I'm a sucker. They think I'm there for them to take advantage of. Is that the reward for being a good person?
Thanks for listening to 10-Minute Murder, bingeable true crime stories. I'm Joe, and here's a quick message from one of you that listens. Subject, podcast-related housekeeping. Joe, not a question, but I love when you talk about how you make the show. Stuff like editing, scripting, all that behind-the-scenes stuff. Makes me appreciate the episodes even more. Just wanted to tell you that. Serena in Billings, Montana. Serena, thank you for the email. I don't really talk about it that much because, in my opinion, that's the boring stuff. That's the stuff that you guys don't want to hear. What's that thing that you don't want to see how the sausage gets made? I may have just wrecked that, but you get what I'm saying. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot that does go into making this show. I do at least 2 episodes per week, sometimes 3 episodes per week, like this week. And there's an enormous amount that goes into it that I can't even describe to you. I'd need a whole podcast episode just to talk about how I go about making each one of these episodes. But I do appreciate people that understand that it takes a lot to make this happen. So thanks, Serena, for saying that. Hey, if you're a brand new listener to the podcast, hit subscribe right now. Then you can go to the website, 10minutemurder.com. You're going to find links to all the places you can listen. Well, not all of them, I'm sure. I'm sure I missed some links, but most of the places you can listen, the places that you can connect with the show on social media. There's a blog there, also a place for you to sign up for the newsletter, and you can email me. If you're an OG listener, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hope it's a great one. And I really appreciate you rating and reviewing the podcast, sharing it with your friends and your family. And that's going to do it. That's your episode for today. Thank you again for listening to 10-Minute Murder. See you next time.